Are we there? Are we there? Or liven up.
This is what you prefer. I'm too peppy in the morning. I can't dance and sing to our theme song music.
Are you done? Are you done tantruming?
Whatever. I am a delight, and you are just going to have to accept that.
All right, it's Kel and Joe, Youngstown Talk Channel. We talk things in
Morning.
politics and pop culture and
Do you know, I feel a sense like I had somebody actually yesterday afternoon, a customer came in, and I was just happened to be standing there doing something, and they came in and I just said, hi, how are you? And he's like, good. And he looks back and he goes, love your podcast, by the way. And I went, oh, you watch us in the morning? And he's like, yeah, it's great. And the first reaction out of me sometimes when people say that is I almost want to go, sorry. Like, I don't know why that's my first Well, I probably do. It's because we can talk about things that are controversial and hard topics and get people fired up. But apparently he must be dead on with our viewpoint because he said he's really enjoyed it every
no
morning.
matter what, either side, the way that we talk about things, I think it spurs ideas and conversations because we hit things in a way it's not ideological. It's not like we're in a camp and we're afraid. We push on things to get people talking. And I think that is what public discourse absolutely needs.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, believe it or not, and depending on what part of our discussion you hear, we are middle ground. We are, in fact, pretty middle ground on most things. And we see both sides of things. Not everybody would agree with that because
good.
Depends on what you hear us say and what you don't.
No. And they can come and tell us about it and they can prove their point and they can lose badly because evidence is on our side that we call a spade every time.
Yeah. Anytime somebody's like, oh, I saw a clip of your show and you said this. And I'm like, no, I didn't. But in the snippet, I was like, in the snippet, did you see what I said before or after, the context of it? No, well, it was a 2-hour-long show. Go watch that. Don't take a snippet, run with it. That's what everybody does in society with everything.
All right. Cracker Barrel.
Oh my gosh, I was just looking at that this morning. So somebody sent me a reel about it. I've not looked into it, but I'm assuming then this is factual information. There are changes.
Yeah. Rebrand.
Total rebrand. And if anyone has not yet heard of this, they have a new logo. They have a new look to the store. Right. And why do you think that is?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, every company has, the right to repaint them however they want. They can alienate all of their customers and they can experiment with it. I don't think that there were necessarily pressures on them to change it. So I don't think anybody was like, hey, it's too, culturally white or whatever. I do think that they had a brand that as the older people age out and you have to embrace, younger people. I don't think their brand is very accommodating for 20s, 30s and 40s. I think it's built around, the Denny's crowd who can appreciate, what they do. So I'm not surprised. But it's sort of like, I put this in the category of the Barbra Streisand effect, right? Or the Britney Spears effect, right? And so if those aren't familiar with it, I think it was a mapping or a publication to Barbra Streisand's where her house was, right? And she took offense to the fact that she was supposed to be kept off of the directories and nobody published hers. And she made a big stink about it. Now, because she made a big stink about it, then everybody paid attention to where she lived. Had she just quietly ignored it, right, and drew no attention to it, nobody would have even freaking noticed. Okay. So I think companies are like, hey, you know what? We're watching our sales dip off and nobody's paying attention to us. I mean, nobody's mentioning our name. Let's do something to piss somebody off. So at least they're publishing our name somewhere.
The only bad publicity is no publicity.
That's exactly right. So if you can do something like, hey, you know what? A lot of people are getting heat for taking icons away, and let's take our icon away and see if we can get some fallout from it.
Yeah,
it's a dangerous game to play.
I hate it. I like Cracker Barrel. I've not.
Do you like the cracker or the barrel? Or
both?
Both. The cracker and the barrel.
Yes. And I've not eaten there in quite some time. I used to eat there a lot. When it ended up going gluten-free, was sad that I couldn't eat some of the things I loved. And so we just sort of got away from it. But I liked the old fashioned Southern feel to it. I liked the fireplace and the little oil lamps on the table. And I loved that there was a store inside, and I loved everything about it. And I feel like I just want to scream, like, why does everything have to be changed to cater to younger generations? Why can't younger generations say, what is this? Oh, it's an oil lamp. It used to be the way that light was provided in old times. And well, what are these things on the wall? It's this, like instead of lowering to them, why can't we bring them up? Why can't we give them a little history, to me, it was a very warm and inviting and Southern homey feel. And now it feels cold and modern.
The thing is, when's the last time you've been to a Cracker Barrel?
It's probably been years.
Okay, so you have a lot of opinions, but you didn't show it with your butt in the seat and eating the meal. And then they're like, oh,
I did for a while.
Since Kellen's not showing up, we have to go and cater to people who will show up.
Listen,
it's a little too late.
Okay, I don't need to utilize a homeless shelter, but do I think there should be homeless shelters? Yes. I don't have to utilize something.
A business caters to the people who will show up, and you weren't.
They could keep everything the same and say,
your back on Cracker
now
Barrel.
We're going to offer more gluten-free meals, and I'd be like, all right.
And that could have been an end. And they probably did focus groups. They looked through the statistics and said, are there enough of you old folk to even make it worthwhile to try to cater to them? Or like, this is the new crop, let's go after them.
Am I the old folk?
You're the old crop.
I am. Yeah. I'm like, I don't like change.
And so
if
you whiny old people would just go to the places that you say you like, then they would keep catering to you. Like if they walked into their retail shop and like, we can't keep stuff on the shelves and there's not a seat to be had in this place. Let's not change anything because this is really good. Right. But the Karen soccer moms out there want to bitch about it, but they won't support it with their butts. So I blame you, not them.
I don't want it to change.
But I go there often.
And do you like the change?
Oh, I don't care. I'll be served in the exact same way. They have them really near highways, and they have parking and overnights for motorhomes. Mm-hmm. So when I'm 9 hours deep into a drive and I see a Cracker Barrel, that means to me, I know I'm going to be able to get off the freeway super easy. I'm going to park behind it.
They have those big parking spots
get some sleep, wake up first thing in the morning, go eat some dinner, breakfast over at the Cracker Barrel.
In a comforting environment.
That's exactly right.
You got your little rocking chair out front.
Yeah, I didn't utilize the rocking chair.
Feels warm and
rocking chairs were cool
inside.
when you had to wait because all the old people were taking up all the seats and you had 15-minute wait. Then I would use the rocking chair.
Yeah, you could play checkers.
And the little golf tee jump game. I was really good at that.
Golf tee game.
Yes.
By the fire. Yeah. I remember one time my daughter and my husband were going on a daddy-daughter date. There was like a daddy-daughter dance something. So my son and I went on a mother-son date. We sat right by the fireplace in a Cracker Barrel. And
So I guess the moral of the story is if you really like some place and you don't want it to change, if it's got like some charm to it that you know is probably going to erode with the innovations of the space, frequent it and don't take it for granted, because when it goes, you're just going to gripe.
And then they even got better. A few years ago, they started serving alcohol, like mimosas and prosecco, and I was just like, what could be better? You're really batting 1,000.
And now they reached out to the older people by offering some alcohol, and you couldn't take it upon yourself that once a month go show the
patronize. Is there a Cracker Barrel around here?
Yes.
Where?
Like 46 up in Austintown. There's a Cracker Barrel.
So 30 something minutes away.
I'm sure there's a close one to you down in the sticks. I'm sure there's one down maybe Newcastle-ish. I think there is. I think if you haven't dug real hard to support the companies that you think are doing it right. That's okay.
Because I used to love their eggs in a basket. Do you know what that is? Eggs in a basket. They basically take toast or like a big thick, I don't know if it was like sourdough bread, maybe toast. And then you put an egg in the middle of it and it actually cooks inside the bread. And then I would get like their cheesy, what is it called? Their hash brown casserole on the side. And I was like, so good. And I can't eat it now. And it breaks my heart.
Well, after the rebrand, I want you to go visit them Okay. Don't share your displeasure with the changes, and see if maybe
Don't sit like this.
see maybe the changes you'll like, and maybe even like it better. You never know.
I doubt it.
It could happen.
I don't like it. I don't even need to go. I know I don't like it.
Okay.
Can I sit with a scowl on my face and like an old person be like, back in my day,
Yeah, absolutely.
this was totally different. It was better.
Yeah, because I'm sure they're keeping account of the alienated customer base now, because they want to give those statistics up, and they're like, oh, there's 5 of you, and 5 of you haven't been here in 5 years. Yeah, I don't really.
But then
don't
what
really
do we
care.
do? We're giving up the greatness to support a younger generation
Yes.
who's nothing but idiots. Have you seen what's happening in Boardman lately?
Yes.
I saw 2, not 1, but 2 articles this morning about freaking idiot kids causing problems at Target, at Sheetz,
Yes.
all over the place.
Mhm.
Why is that? And why would we cater to those idiots? I love that. Do you like the new rules? Like movie theater can't be an unattended minor after a certain time on the weekends now. Target just said, Target and Boardman, nobody under the age of 18 without accompanied by a guardian after 8 p.m. I'm like, good.
Doesn't solve the problem, though.
Well, it doesn't solve
does
it
it
before
shift
8 p.m.
shift them to another place? Okay, so you have aggressive, hyperactive teenagers,
Disrespectful.
who do not have anything as an outlet for those aggression. Culture has feminized everything so that we just want to placate it and lecture our way out of it. How about doing something and providing stuff that allows that aggression to manifest in more productive ways?
Yeah, and see, I'm kind of torn on this, because part of me is like, oh my God, do we just need more things for them to do? And at the same time, I think this is the same area that I was a teenager in, with the same amount of things to do, if not maybe less, when I was a kid.
But we
didn't cause this disturbance.
We created the culture that created the problem. The culture is responsible for it, because we're not even to acknowledge that teen boys under certain circumstance that are hyper aggressive need an outlet more than what I mean. We situated in front of the screens, right? And then we're like, no more screens. So we then dispatched all these kids out into the world where they're used to shoot them up and constant bright lights and loud noises, and then you don't expect them to cause havoc. We bought that by what we allowed our parenting and what we, in civilization was able to tolerate. So we bought it. We might as well figure out a way to make use of it.
I just, on the way here, heard a song, and the song lyrics totally jumped out at me. And it said, we have dusty Bibles and brand new iPhones, and we wonder why we feel this way.
Yeah.
And I went, oh my Lord.
Yeah, listen to some Slippery Slopists, because they know what the F they're talking about. And so long that you make all the wrong decisions with culture and then act completely surprised when all the things Slippery Slopists told you would happen happens, and then you do your best to blame other things, but F you bought this and you did it so willingly. And suck it up, Buttercup, because you wanted it.
And I feel like we have such this this delicate tightrope to walk when it comes to things like phones and technology. Like, oh God, something happened to me last night, and my husband made a comment that ticked me off at the time, but I hate to admit it's true. He was right. We were sitting at home, and we were getting ready for bed, but it wasn't quite bedtime yet. We had some time to kill. And I told the kids, well, why don't you play with the dog? Why don't you play Go Search? Because we loves to give him cheese, and he'll go search out pieces of cheese. And we do hide and seek, where one of us will hide and we let the dog sniff us out and find us. And it's great for the dog. It's fun for us. And I said, well, I just want to watch you guys. You guys do it, and I'm going to sit here and watch. And they did it where they hid cheese around the living room, and the dog had to find it. My son would go hide, and my husband would direct the dog and teach him how to find people and sniff out throughout the house. And this went on for a good while. And I missed all of it because I just started doom scrolling. And I stared at this stupid phone the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
I just got into the next thing, into the next thing, into the next thing. And I didn't mean to. I kept saying, oh, I'm about to put this down. I want to watch this. I just want to see this one thing. And then I'm going to watch this. And then before I know it, my husband comes over. They were done. He sat down. He's like, You didn't watch any of that, did you? And I was like, what the hell is wrong with me?
Mm-hmm.
And funny enough, one of the videos I watched was singer Robbie Williams was talking about how he will not allow his kids to have phones. And he's like, and they get mad all the time. All of their friends have phones, but they don't have phones. And it's like, why? Why would I give this drug, this addiction to my children? And I'm like, why do we do that? Now, but in a world that it is inevitable, technology is changing, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. They have to keep up with it. It will be used in their everyday lives. How do you navigate the use, maybe the necessary use of new technology without becoming addicted and just a total slave to it?
Well, you have to have an understanding of what you're doing. And that's why the probabilities and the slippery slope people can make a suggestion. If you make a change, what change has a positive and one has a negative. And you're not going to get one that doesn't have some kind of social cost or family cost or, actual financial cost. And everything is engineered to get your attention. And so it is by design that if you give in to the thing that is bad for you without, when I hand you the keys to a car, right, it represents all kinds of new abilities and all kinds of new different dangers, right? Mm-hmm. And so if I handed you the car, you don't take the keys to the car until you make an acknowledgement of what you're going to do to mitigate the sides that you don't want to happen. And then you stick to those rules. And if, let's just say you're speeding's a part of it. Crashes are, however many per year. And if you do the speed limit, it goes down by 20%. Every once in a while, you say, am I still following the rules that govern my decision to make myself a responsible person? The minute you go off script, you get to decide what the script is. Nobody gets to tell you that. Mm-hmm. All right. So if you're like, I'm going to budget myself an hour a day to do research or entertainment or whatever, you've given yourself a condition. And if you follow the condition, you get the car keys. If you don't follow the condition, you don't get the car keys. The problem is that, number one, we don't know what's good and what's bad. We don't want to look at the evidence to say whether or not we're harming ourselves or helping ourselves. And number two, we won't hold ourselves, because we're the adults, we don't hold ourselves to the conditions that we set because we don't have to. Nobody's, hitting us over the head with a 2x4 if we misbehave. So we got to treat ourselves like children is what the deal is. And so far, you're 2 for 2. Kelin forsaked Cracker Barrel. She's responsible. And she doom scrolled and ignored her family.
I did.
So that's 2 for 2.
What kind of human being am I?
Well, at least you are vulnerable and you share with us how fallible you really are. And
I am. It's true. It's true. And I've been trying. I really have. What I try to do now is check my phone one last time. Like, as I'm getting ready for bed, like I get my pajamas on, I brush my teeth, I wash my face, I get ready, turn my lamps on. Like my whole bedtime routine is one last time on social media, and anybody that sent me a message I need to respond to. And then I plug my phone in on my nightstand and I leave it in the bedroom and I go downstairs. And that's it. That's the last time I touch it. And I've been doing pretty good at that. I had not yet done that last night, but I have found too, like it will start to bug me if on Instagram, like my friends and I will send each other reels like all day, every day. I've got different groups of so-and-so would find this funny and my husband would find this funny. And I just send stuff all the time. And if I see those notifications adding up that I have all these reels to watch, I'll almost get like uncomfortable. Like I've got to clear all that before I set my phone down instead of just being like, who cares? Just set it down.
So when we're talking about the target kids, they're when I say giving people an outlet, it's sort of like an honest, like hardcore drill instructor opinion of what it is that you're doing. And if you give yourself an outlet for a naturally occurring thing, right, then you've acknowledged that it's something that is a little bit outside of your control. You're going to get impulsive and do stuff. So if you have a kid who's raging with hormones, they're in aggressive settings where they have tons of pressures and they need aggressiveness out. Well, giving them an outlet says, okay, this is a natural occurrence. Either we rip the testosterone out of the kid and feminize them so that they don't have these aggressive tendencies, or we take a productive use for something that's naturally occurring. But instead of going through Target and ruining, product and whatever, They want to break stuff and destroy stuff, hard labor, things that are, challenges beyond what they are. They want a little bit of rebellion. They want to push on status quo a little bit. Like you list all the things that your brain wants you to do, and then you find out an analog that gives you that same impulse input, right? So you can satisfy it, but at the end of the day, you didn't ruin something or you didn't waste the energy to do it. So you could do that same thing as an adult. Why the hell do you doom scroll? Right? You got impulsive natures, and you need a substitution so that instead of doing something that costs you all your time and you feel guilty and shameful afterwards, put it into something where you can use that impulse for something that at the end of the day, you're like, oh, I threw myself into something, got impulsive about X, and now look I actually have a product that didn't injure me and wasn't bad for me. This is actually good for me.
So what could be that for these teens in the area? Like, what do you do with kids that
take it like a parent? If you had a hyperactive parent or a hyperactive kid that you knew could not sit in a seat, you could either be a tyrant and force them to sit in the seat and break their spirit, or you could be like, oh, they've got a ton of energy and wants to run around. Can I think of something? Can I get creative and think of something that will give them a chance to run around? And there's all upside and almost no downside. You'd have to craft it and this is sort of what families and parents used to be their sole obligation, right? And we've outsourced a lot of our responsibilities as parents to television, video games, and screens. And so if they don't do a good job, then the parent's like, how did this happen? It's because you're a lazy freaking parent. You're no good at it, right? I really think that more parent training, more parent licensure should happen so that we don't have these brain dead people creating a bunch of zombies that go to Target to get outlet. And then the parents and everybody else is outraged and don't put it back on parents who are just total, I don't know what to call them. They're just derelicts.
I feel like in our day and age, in our culture, it's become so much more openly accepted, the idea of like people going to therapy and, oh, I have a therapist and I go to therapy, and it's not so much a stigma anymore. But that's almost like once the damage is done, you're open.
Therapy's a scam.
Well, yeah, I mean, regardless of how you feel about it or if it works or not, it's still something that is a tool to use after the fact. I feel like there should be more emphasis on, like you said, like parenting guidelines, parenting classes, parenting advice, family guidelines, and family things. Like, could it be something that we fix from the beginning rather than now we have a problem, let's try to fix it? Or, hey, let's set people
we won't
up for
do
success.
that, because what's really necessary is you're going to say really mean things. So somebody walks up to you and say, I weigh 300 pounds. You're going to say, stop eating shit. Right. And you won't be 300 pounds. That's not what they want to hear. But if you went to therapy, the therapist isn't going to approach it like, stop doing the behavior. They're going to be like, well, your friend should be more accommodating. Maybe select people who are more accepting.
Well, what they'll probably say is, I feel terrible. And they'll say, why do you think that is?
Exactly. So really, it's not a mechanism that changes behavior or changes your state of mind. It's basically telling you that you're doing everything right, and this is just a finesse issue rather than a mechanical issue. And they make more money when you keep coming back. So if every time you went there, they said something that made you feel bad, you'd stop coming. It's a bad business decision to tell you exactly what you need to hear. And so it became this fluffy, social, whatever. And
venting session.
Does nothing. Does really nothing.
I don't know if it does nothing.
It does nothing.
I don't know if it does nothing.
It does nothing.
I think it depends on the person. It depends on why you're there. It depends on what you're willing to do with it. It depends on the therapist. I don't think they're all good or useful, but
you're a little more you're a little
open-minded.
Bit more, not open-minded. No, you're a little bit more
accepting.
No, not that one either.
Amazing,
permissive.
wonderful.
Yeah, you're giving them a license to be useless and just tell people what they want to hear.
I knew someone who was seeing a counselor who literally just said, I don't know what it is you want me to say or do for you.
Yeah. But this is very simple. We need, an old grandmother who did not know how to just tell you the truth and they hurt your feelings a lot. That's what the therapist needs. You remember that she used to be on Jay Leno. Do you remember that old lady who they would ask her advice.
Oh, I think I know who you're talking about.
And
she was real kind of
ask her a question and like, what are you, stupid? That's the therapy that you freaking need to like check you into. So Abigail, I'll call her Abigail. Abigail, yesterday I just spent 2 hours doom scrolling my phone, and now I feel terrible because I didn't make dinner and the laundry's now behind. What are you, freaking a moron? If you can't handle electronics, put them in the fire and get to your duties as a human being. Okay. All right.
But wouldn't you just then say to these kids, like, what are you, some kind of animal? Why would you treat the store like that? What the heck is wrong? Get out of here and go. But then you're saying, but they need something. They have all this aggression and all this testosterone, and they've got to get that.
Whose responsibility is making sure there's an outlet. You hold parents accountable for the misbehavior of the kids, and then they find out ways to do what they're supposed to do, which is control your spawn.
Like what? What is an outlet? What can they be doing instead?
Go chop down a tree. There's landscaping work. I'm going to fire the landscaper and have them go chop down a tree. Get that aggression out. You can customize. And
you think a kid's going to go do that?
A kid will do it if that's really their only choice. You are a parent. You are the tyrant. You have total control of the tree chopping and the grass mowing and the hard details, right?
Yeah.
Because there's tons of responsibilities that we've outsourced to other things. And so kids are like, well, there is nothing to do. And I'm not, they haven't earned the fun versions of the aggression. You need to get the responsibility and self-control and discipline side of it, and then you earn your way into being in front of public. And if kids don't have the self-control to go to a store by themselves, then stores are like, F you. We don't want your business. You're too much of a hassle.
Yeah. In fact, I was at the movie theater one time. This was months ago. And we walked in, and my husband and I saw a big sign there that said nobody under the age of, I think it was like 14, 14 and younger, not without a parent, on Friday, Saturday nights.
Right.
And there was a group of girls coming in to see a movie together, and they had to turn right around and call the mom to come back. And now the parent's like, seriously, I thought I could just go and have some time to myself.
Nope. Not your babysitters. Stupid parents.
It's going to be like the parents' problem real quick.
Yeah. And it's supposed to be. Put more of that emphasis on parents and make the punishment and penalties for not being a good parent really harsh. So people figure out that if they behave badly, there's consequences.
But unfortunately, I think somebody in a situation like that was probably a parent that was like, I have a group of girls that are mature enough to go and see a movie together and not have an issue. But it's like when you say like, oh, the others ruined it for the rest of us. I am sure that the parents of kids that are doing some of the things like I saw in these news articles, those kids belong to parents that are going to get a call by the police. Your child was just doing this, and be like, fine. And that'll be it. Like, I think that kid got that way because the parent was not involved, and they're probably going to continue to be that way because the parent's not going to do anything.
Right.
And it sort of ruins it.
You're right that this is a problem that we needed to tackle 15 years ago before all this happened. We're already deep into it. And the slippery slope would tell you that if the kids will be ungovernable, the society will be ungovernable, and we will have the choice to lock everything down and not give free reign permission to anybody to do anything, right? You go to the DMV and they, you have to make an appointment now, right? And so I want to qualify you that you're good enough to get on an airplane. So I'm going to do security screenings. And so the elevation is that as we create more bad people, you got to take more steps to keep the bad people so they can't do anything in free reign in public. DC is a great example, right? There's a bunch of people who are homeless that have no respect for the law, and they're wandering around, and they start robbing and taking cars and shooting people and gang activity and drugs. No shit. That is the inevitability out of lawlessness. You give permission to lawlessness, and mathematically, you get more lawlessness. Did you know that? It's like permit it, and you get more of it for some reason because there's a huge upside to not having to follow the rules. So then what has to happen? You have to go to jail, get put in a mental institution, right? Or not be allowed to leave your house. That is the intrinsic consequence. The real consequence for not being able to behave in public is that you can't go in public. And then you earn your way to go in public by knowing how to behave in public. So
I can remember an instance when I was a teenager, and this still sticks with me because I remember feeling some kind of way about it. Like I was a teenager. I was at Camelot Lanes in Boardman with a group of friends. And my boyfriend and I at the time went outside to talk. Honest to God, we were talking in his van. His parents had a van and we were like 16. So he was allowed to bring it to the bowling alley. And all of a sudden there's a knock on the window and it's a police officer. And we're like, yeah. And he's like, what are you guys doing? And we're like, talking. And he's like, listen, I can't be getting calls saying there are two teenagers having sex in the parking lot. And I went, what? And he's like, you guys got to go inside. Like, you can't be messing around out here. And I was like, I would never. Like, I was mad. I was offended. Yeah. I was like, I'm not that kind of person. Like, I don't care if I'm 16 or like, I would never do that. And don't ever accuse me. Like, I remember we were like, okay, we get it. Teenagers in a parking lot, in a van. I get how that looks. We'll go inside. And that was that. But to this day, I'm like, how is it that somebody could be in that situation and me think, like I'm so offended by the accusation you would even think I would do that. And other kids would just be like, meh. They would either be doing it or not care, just go about like, what made that? What makes the difference between a child that would never do something like that and a kid that's like, no, I did it and I don't care. You know what I mean? The mindset difference. What affects that, do you think?
You're in the minority and you have a sense of justice. So let's just say you were a 16-year-old teenage boy and you went to get car insurance. And you are a good driver and you're totally responsible, but your insurance is $200 a month. Is that a fairness that you are then put in the same basket as people who misbehave? There's an injustice to that. But there's been every generation that I could think of paid that consequence for being put into that group, right?
Yeah.
So welcome to the club of
other people
having
ruin
to pay
it for the rest
it's
of
exactly
us.
right. But when you live in a civilization, you both pay those consequences, but also have a say that if those other misbehaving people, you don't want to be, let's just say the week before there was a group of two girls that were kicking people's lawn ornaments over and doing vandalizing, right? Now you're in a group that has a higher potential for kicking it over. So if you want to be treated as an individual, right? You don't want to be put in that group if the group is being condemned, right?
Yeah.
So AI giving you a social credit score. So you saying, you know what? I'm sick of being lumped in with all these other losers. I'm a good driver and I want you to pay attention to me and I want you to see my details are different than all of those. So AI, look at me. I get good grades and I show up to school on time and I've got parents and I've never been in trouble and whatever. And AI is like, yep, you're not in that category. All of a sudden your insurance is lower. Right now, you've given advantage to the people who behave properly. So maybe we start social credit scores with kids and the derelicts get a really low score. And then when you're dealing with them, you're like going to a movie theater instead of being 16 under 14, not with an adult. They pull up your credit score and say, oh, you could totally handle a movie. You go right in. And then in a Target, the beeper goes off and says, oh, low social credit score. You're freaking out of here, dude. And then that way the good kids are treated like good kids and don't have to pay the bad kids' consequences.
I would love that. I would love that now as an adult, social credit scores. That what you have to pay, what you have to deal with in your day, how you're rewarded in life is all based off of your performance, basically. And then the people that are performing badly will get nowhere.
A year ago, everybody would have universally condemned the social credit score.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. And the security implications to have people looking over your shoulder. And now when the slippery slopes are proven right, that everything's going to go to shit, we are going to be begging for a social credit score because just to control the bad people.
But yeah, you know what? That's it. Just it. The people that would get behind that idea are the ones that would benefit from it because they know they're doing well.
Yeah. So you better do it soon because the people who will vote for this, if there's too many bad people, right, you're never going to get anywhere with it.
But I mean, it's almost like we're not going to get anywhere anyways, because I think you don't need a social credit score to see that when you make bad choices in life, you don't advance. If you find that you're like, oh, I'm a single parent with no money and no place to go and no job and I can't do the things I want to do. And you look back and you're like, oh, it's all because of these different choices I made. Does anything change? Like, no, there's still other people that are still going to make the same choices, that are still going to be in that mindset. It's like they're still doing it knowing that the people who made different choices are thriving.
Well, you would hope, but that's not the world we live in. We reward bad behavior. We make really dumb people powerful and rich, right?
Yeah.
We worship people that we shouldn't worship. So we've changed it where there are more bad people and they've been given tons of confidence. And so they end up making it. And you're like, well, you broke all the rules. You didn't do what was right. And why are you ahead of me?
Yeah.
Right?
Like reality TV shows.
It's exactly right. So, but if we wait too long, that's going to be the majority. And then the minority of people who are following the rules, like if everybody's speeding on the highway and you're the only one that is going the speed limit, and then you get tagged for a speeding ticket, you're going to be like, hold up.
Yeah.
I was the only one not speeding. Why are you pulling me over? And the cop was like, well, you're the only one we could catch. Right.
Yeah.
You'd be like, wait, the metrics are just a disaster. It's not in doing what it was intended to do.
But I think sometimes those people too that make all the bad decisions and bad choices, they don't even have the logical reasoning, maybe. Like, I remember working with some people one time that if I was doing well, or maybe I had just bought something nice or had something nice or whatever, or had some privilege to go and do something, they're always like, oh, that must be nice. Oh, that must be nice. Oh, you just get that. We're two totally different people. And it's like, let's look at our day. How did I spend my morning? Getting up early, making sure I had everything I needed, making sure I got to work on time, doing my best there. And how did you spend your morning? I just listened to you and our other coworker talk about how you could commit tax fraud and claim each other's kids on your taxes. You were late today because you were too lazy to get out of bed. It's like, so if you don't see that it's not someone just got lucky or privileged and was handed something, but it's the choices and the way you live your life. If you don't get that, you're not going to.
Well, here this is hopeful. This will not be forever. There will be a point where all of those people will not be jealous of you anymore because they break the rules and they get rewarded. So they'll all be ahead of you.
That's true.
So
that's
fear
true.
not.
They're going to get the same thing and not have to do anything for it. And that's the thing
where, Democrats have big hearts, but they do dumb things and they reward bad behavior, which creates more of it. So you literally be the only one following the rules and you will be the one saying it must be nice. You break all the rules and you have all the nice stuff. And we'll get there, and all you and I will be able to do is say, I told you so, and it won't matter.
Yeah. I just saw a perfect meme on Facebook yesterday. It said something like, why would I give 110% every day when I see the same person thriving that forgot to do their job today? And I was like, God, I relate to that. I relate to that. Dennis says, there are only two things in life, what you promote and what you permit. Until the lunatics have the levels of control.
Yep.
May as well tattoo naughty or nice on foreheads.
Yeah. And naughty will be the majority for sure.
Yeah.
Well, even in the business world, they did the same thing there. So they're not done trying to destroy the fabric of a meritocracy. All right. We are competing with businesses that do not have to worry about doing anything right. They are in a certain class, look a certain way, behave a certain way, and they get free money from the government. And I'm competing with those people when they are doing all the wrong things. No business plan, no sacrifice, no innovation. They're sitting on their ass, collecting a check. They're competing for the same customers that I am, right? Where I have to work for it and I have to be smarter and I have to outmaneuver. I just don't happen to belong to any of the classes that get the free money. So when they are being given an award, what do you think I'm doing? I'm saying, you didn't freaking earn that, sucker. If I got a free check, things would have been easier too. I'd be up on that podium being celebrated. But who are we celebrating? How many awards has Joe got for my prowess in business? 0, right? But I watch every week a new entrepreneur is being put on the pedestal. And I kind of look at it to see what did they really accomplish? What did they overcome?
Yeah.
Oh, they were born black. That's amazing. Oh, they're a woman. Oh, congratulations on working for that. How long did it take you to become a woman?
Yeah.
So it drives me
It
crazy.
takes some people years to become a woman. No, I'm just
So
kidding. I'm just kidding.
I see what you did. But if you lay out and say, okay, well, why it feels nice to be able to take somebody and make them feel good and without the merit that actually belongs in it. And it's an injustice for someone who actually deserves it and could really get some inspiration and motivation out of being acknowledged. But we're backwards. We do things that feel good instead of things that actually have a intrinsic value in society. And as long as we keep doing that, all you Darwinists out there, because I know a lot of you follow Darwin, nature's freaking mean. Okay. So when you stave something off, like a natural occurrence like death or pandemics or whatever, it will always visit you in a larger form. All right. So if you put out, let's just say the army, we have 100 people in our army, but there's so few women in our army. So what we're going to do is we're going to put some women in our army.
We need some diversity.
And so the mathematicians are like, okay, if everybody had a point value of their strength and their additions to your army, and every time you add a woman into the ranks, I watched my metrics go down in either agility, or strength, or strategy, or aggressiveness, or whatever. Every addition, I watched my number go down, right? And I will say, you're making an army that is weaker than it was yesterday. And what happens in nature when you have a weak army, right? You die. You get conquered and whatever. So we're creating a weak culture. We're creating weak physically, weak mentally. So if all you have out there, if the big thing about the pandemic that should have been realized is we have so many very weakened people, either because of their physical body or their immune system or whatever. So what should have happened is scientists are like, oh, we've got communities of really terribly unhealthy people. It's not going to take much of a pandemic to blast through here and take most of them out, because that's what nature does. It calls the herd, right? Gets rid of your weakest so they don't breed and cause whatever. This is getting so far to so close to eugenics, it's not even funny. But it's one of those things where if you don't pay attention to how nature deals with you when things are out of your control. Can you survive or can you not? How much friction can you take without succumbing to it? How much adversity before you are crippled and can't do anything? Well, I want to take the strong people and I want to put them on a pedestal so they can do what they do. And while they're busy protecting and making things and whatever, I want to take the weak people and make them stronger so I can create more of the people that I can put into my armies and make scientists and whatever. But as long as we're like, oh, we got a bunch of these weak people, what should we do with them? Nature's like, hey, I can kill them if you want me to. And
we're like, no, let's build them up and make them the standard.
Let's qualify them into the stronger positions by making them strong, or let's just not even do that strong. Let's lower the standards of strength. And then so they qualify. We've all become weakened because of it. And now, you use that analogy into breeding. We're having a lot of really dumb people breeding, right? We're having a lot of really socially weakened families breeding, creating more people. So you have this population collapse happening, which less people are having babies. And we know that that's really bad for society when we don't have enough children to replace the people that are dying. And at the same time, the people that are breeding are dumb. And so do you want no people and we'll deal with that problem? Or do you want all dumb people and we'll deal with that problem? I don't want either, but nobody's listening to me and my mean talk about dumb people should be either made into stronger people or they need to not breed.
Instead, we cater like changing things like Cracker Barrel, which could have just taught history and charm and all kinds of stuff. And we went, nope, this isn't working anymore because that's not what the young people like. And so we lowered it to fit
Why does
them.
that move your needle at all? Like when we're talking about population collapse
and food
and idiocracy, my needle moves a lot because that's something tangible.
Because it is just such a glaring example of how we wreck something good
but
to cater to the bad.
Cracker Barrel goes out of business tomorrow. There'll be another restaurant that comes in there that takes its place.
You're just justifying
you will not. You haven't been there in 5
happening.
freaking years. You won't even know. I'll have to, if it doesn't make the news, I'll have to tell you that it happened in order for you even to notice. Non-patron.
Just because I don't go there all the time doesn't mean I can't support it. There's a lot of things I support that I can't physically go be involved with.
But you feel like it should be alive and well,
yes,
for the sake of it. So when's the last time you've been to a library?
Maybe a couple of months.
Couple of months?
My kids wanted to go, and my kids go to libraries.
So you're a frequent patron of the library?
I don't know about frequent.
Okay. Do you think libraries should exist?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to challenge you just to take the societal anchors that you think are really important to have and put them on a list, and make sure that when you have any time or energy that you show support for those anchors so they don't do the Cracker Barrel way. They don't abandon you like you've abandoned them. Because that's justice. If you abandon them and they abandon you, I think that's a 1-for-1, right?
This is slightly off the subject.
Okay.
But I saw a quote from Elon Musk, and I'm wondering if you agree.
Okay.
I don't remember the exact quote, but basically the point he was getting across, it was something like, one of his regrets is he wishes he chose people based on personality more than talent. And the idea was people are what they do. And he wants good people, not just talented ones. And how those two things are not exactly the same. And he wishes he would have put more merit on the personality of a person and who they are, rather than their talent and what they can do.
Historically, that is a maxim that occurs to every single innovator on the planet. Because here's the deal. It's whatever you're best geared to handle. Okay. So in his case, he got along with highly evolved technical people over social, relational, or whatever. So he built his companies because he wasn't good at the social, but he was really good at the creation side. So if he gets in the time machine and he does what he says he was going to do, and he picks people based on their personalities, guess what may not have happened? We might not have 6 companies that are awesome companies. We have likable companies that drink fruit juice and do yoga on the rooftops, but we might not have a rocket ship that even have taken off yet. So you pick your poison. And I think he picked the right way. Even if it doesn't feel as good, he wishes that maybe he added a couple of good personalities in there rather than just merited people. I can guarantee you if he got to experience the other branch of that tree, he would pick the technical side.
Do you feel as though one is better than the other?
No, they're of equal, whatever you're best geared to handle. And I think the fallacy, for instance, like even in a household, there was a new term that I came across this morning, man something. Anyway, it was a new term that the feminists have come up with to degrade men yet again. And it's women who feel like they have to be emotional support mechanisms for their husband, and it's not reciprocated and whatever. And so like from a technical standpoint, women are just better at handling emotional things. So if you have, your warrior, the person who goes and does stuff, and then you have the social person who, is the undergirders for that, both get to go do their own thing without thinking the other one is giving more than the other, right? And you get marital breakdowns because we're trying to be both good at the same things rather than make people good at what they're truly good at. And that's where the family dynamic really, we wanted women to participate through force equal to a man. And instead of saying men and women are different, let them do what they're really good at and be the best at that. Be there for the other person in a relationship. You don't have to be equals. You can be, equally as good at different things. So, so I would say Elon Musk would have lost all of his huge advantage, but it would have felt better. So we benefit from him having made those choices to go technical. But both are equally as important.
See, and I like that acknowledgement of equal importance. I feel like in my life, I have almost been, and I don't know if it was society doing this or just me doing it to myself. I've almost felt like I have been a little like diminished, maybe, because I did not go the way of science, technology, mathematics, logical reasoning, engineering, producing things. I went more of the soft skill route of communications and relationships and things of that nature. And I even remember like it being a joke when I was in college to some people, and they're like, "Oh, what are you going for?" You know, some people maybe want to be doctors or engineers or whatever. And I was like, "Oh, I'm in communications." And everybody kind of looked at that as the backup plan for people that can't do anything else.
Right.
There was a lot of athletes in that major. And they're like, "Oh, they just have to pick a major. They're a dumb jock and anybody can talk, so you pass." And I was like, God, I resent that. Like, I don't think you could do what I do. You being the people that are in the more logic-minded things. Just like I can't do what you do, I don't think you can do what I do. And I think that it was almost looked at as a lesser thing, like a throwaway. Anybody can be like that kind of thing. And I was like, can they though? I don't think so. I've seen lots of examples that somebody really, really struggled with something that I thought was basic. You know, like, oh, hey, I have to go to this networking thing and give a presentation and I can't do it. And I'm like, I do that standing on my head. Like, you can't do that. And people will think that that's not a big deal or an accomplishment until they have to do it and they're scared shitless. And so I liked that the idea of personality, communication, soft skills, things of that nature can be as equally important as somebody that can work out a mathematical equation to create something. I think they both can create things.
But it's not a baseline. And if you take all of the things, the skill sets that people can do, as the economies and culture changes, you get an emphasis on whether or not that's important to culture or not, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, if being a content creator in the 80s meant that you had to do certain things, and the entry point, the way of entering into that industry was you had to do certain things, and they didn't let everybody in. And then YouTube comes along and says everybody can create shit. So then you get somebody who had no formal training, is now doing something, and it's better than the guy that's sitting behind the anchor desk, and he's thinking like, wow, I'm minimized now. But it's the innovations change where everybody then had a voice. So you can argue it's good that everybody has a voice, but then people who were gatekept and their positions were pretty solid. They had to have seen that if one day that we didn't keep their position sacred and gatekeep it, the competition would be infinite and they probably wouldn't be valued pretty high. And it's true in every industry. Sometimes mathematics is a strong suit. And as the economy changes, where mathematics, I remember in the 80s and 90s, it was the medical field, and the late 90s was the technical field, and then into the 2000s and 2010s was mathematical. And it's only because what was being innovated at the time. We had aged people that needed more doctors. We didn't have enough doctors, so we recruited everywhere, created tons of freaking doctors. Now guess what happened? There were too many of them, right? Something where we were fetching them for $500,000 signing bonuses. Universities start churning them out, lowered the entry, because we needed them. We lowered the standards of entry into that field, and all of a sudden we devalued what it was. Same thing in tech. In the late 90s, early 2000s, every city had a computer company. Every city. There were technical people freaking everywhere, right? And so it put emphasis on people that there were good technical people and there were, mediocre technical people. But the demand was so high, everybody made a ton of money in the beginning because the demand outpaced the supply, right? Mm-hmm. And then technology got a little bit better, and the people who were just mediocre found other things to do because then they didn't. And it was the reward system and the merit of good, solid, talented people lined up with what the marketplace needed, and we had homeostasis. But anytime in as far as communications, like, that's a dead industry. Like, I wouldn't, if anybody said, should I go get my communications degree? I would say effing no, because consumers get it everywhere and they're not choosing you. Who are they choosing? Really dumb people who are flashy. So unless you go to school and learn how to be dumb and flashy, that you're going to go get trained on how to do it mechanically the right way. You're going to be an above standard. But what people are consuming is not high intellect purveyors, right?
Yeah.
They're picking dumb, sexy, flashy people.
Oh, I remember a friend of mine in college who was in the same major, so we had a lot of classes together. She wanted to be a sportscaster real bad, like an Aaron Andrews of back then. And I remember all I could think is, you don't look the part at all. She was in no way an Aaron Andrews or anybody you'd see on ESPN. And that feels terrible to say that, but I know I was thinking it. Everybody was thinking it. It doesn't matter how knowledgeable you are with sports. It doesn't matter if you're great at broadcasting and producing shows or any of that. Like, look at yourself. They're not putting you on TV. And they could bring in like a Sydney Sweeney comes to mind because we've been talking about Sydney Sweeney. But that, hey, do you have any experience with TV? No. Do you know anything about sports? No. We'll teach you. We'll teach you. Get on camera.
That's exactly
and
right.
They're
That's why
win
it's a
all
dead
day
industry,
long.
because we're rewarding a lack of intelligence, but the impulsive consumer base. We pick it as consumers, what we like to look at, like what we like to hear, who we like to associate with. And if professional people who know the game aren't being chosen, right? And they are, what ends up happening? They'll find something else to do where they will be chosen for their intellect. So that's why I disagree with Elon Musk's. It's a little regret thinking that he could have done it a little differently, but I disagree that if choosing dumber people would have been fulfilling in everything that he did.
But listen to how you just worded that.
Yeah.
Choosing dumber people. He never said anything about their intelligence. He said personality versus talent.
Right.
And you equate that to dumber.
Oh, yeah. Is dumber, like 100% dumber.
How do you know it equals dumber? Just because they've got a good personality?
No, it's the priority of expression of talent. Okay, so really smart people have to say unpopular things in order to get stuff done. If you prioritize relational things, then the things that needed to get done don't get done because they feel bad. And so half of the engineering achievements that they've had meant that they had to push through some really uncomfortable times. So if you had SEAL Team 6 to do something, knowing that the guys in that group were willing to really suffer to get something done versus the people who want to have tea time, right? And tea time is a higher priority than getting the thing done. What's going to happen is you're going to have less things advance, right? And at a slower pace. So dumber means if the mission statement says X and you do anything ahead of priority of getting X done, then you've made it dumber, right? You've diluted it with things that are not part of that priority.
Do you think it comes into consideration, though, if you had two people of equal skill level?
Yes.
Would then you go to personality to make that sort of tiebreaker? If you're like, hey, I need one, you're both equally skilled.
Well, he's not making that claim. If you had a really smart person that was more agreeable, then you would just classify them as a smart person. What he's saying is that he would have taken a priority over personality, easier to work with, but might not be as effective on something. And that, when you're dealing with consumers, is important. I've had a bunch of people who were technically not real great, but they were super likable, so they could be tolerated longer. It took them longer to do anything versus someone who can get something done in 30 minutes, but you didn't like them at all, right?
Yeah.
And when it's dealing with customers or consumers, that's important to be tolerated long enough to get a job done. Even if it costs you more, they would pick I felt better about it. But when you're dealing with feats of engineering, the engineering that has no emotions whatsoever. It's either going to get done and it's going to get done really well, or I felt good while I was doing it and nobody effing cares how you feel.
Unless you're wooing financiers and you have to have money to get feats
but
done,
they didn't
and
have
who brings
to.
in the
You know what brought
and-
money to Tesla? And if Elon Musk went right now as being someone who's unpopular, and he opened, the Tesla phone company and did a round of fundraising, do you think he would have a lack of people willing to invest, or do you think that people would be lined up? That is what a meritocracy does. It doesn't care about how unlikable you are. If I can make some money from you and you're effective and you get the job done, and it all depends on whether or not the priority is getting the job done or feeling good while you're doing the job.
Yeah.
That's really all it is. I believe in 99% meritocracy.
It's hard.
And you do too.
It's just not, I don't think it's human nature, which is what makes it hard.
Okay, here, let me tell you why. If you're being served, right? If the person is serving you, you want meritocracy. When you want to push back on the philosophy, then you want a little bit of likability in there, right? So like, we'll talk about your surgeon. All right. You have a heart transplant. Okay.
Yeah.
And whether or not that person is skilled and capable of doing that job versus that person tells jokes, right? Would you be able to tolerate an unlikable person who is the absolute best heart surgeon? Would you pick the heart surgeon that's unlikable, or would you pick the heart surgeon that you can have a conversation with?
Yeah, I want the best one.
So when you're being served, right, you know what the priority should be, and that's the person that is best at the job.
Oh yeah. I was in a situation like that once where I had to have surgery, not like major scary surgery, but it was surgery. And I had friends in the medical field in the town who had worked for the hospitals and stuff. And I was like, who's a real good surgeon? Who's good at this? And so many people were like, you got to go to Dr. So-and-so. He's the best there is. And I was like, that's who I want. And they said, you got to understand, he doesn't have the bedside manner as others. He's very dry. He is not bubbly, but he's good at what he does. And I was like, well, okay. And they were right. Like, I'd be on my visits and everything. And some doctors are joking or charismatic and blah. No, he is just dry. This is what we're going to do. And I'm like, okay. And I was like, dude, you just make it happen and do a good job. I don't care what your bedside manner is like.
But in spite of being, socially reprehensible, that he's getting referrals, and it's not because of his bedside manner. It's the skill that he has and how he wields it.
Yeah.
So that if you were to take an acid test for whether or not I would want to bring, my need to somebody, if your priorities are not dying, you're going to pick the person who's best at the job. And and again, that's why we can figure it out as consumers. When we want to be served, merit's a high priority. Being likable is secondary to it. So if you can accomplish both, great. But if I was taking, a bunch of nerdy kids from YSU and none of them had any social skills whatsoever, I would give confidence that they were better at the thing they were doing than the people who put priority on how much they liked each other and how they would hang out together and have good conversations with another every time.
Yeah. I had another surgeon. He did a fine job, but he was just very sweet, very caring, very great bedside manner. So I've had both.
I bet you he wasn't the best though. The best are always going to
not.
And if I'm building rockets, I want the best.
Yeah.
If I'm building AI technology, I want the best.
I mean, I remember like getting ready for surgery. They're putting in my IV. I'm in this little room. I'm scared out of my mind. And again, one of the nurses comes in and she's like, "Oh, you're with Dr. So-and-so today?" Yeah. And she's like, "If I were in your position, I would want him to. Like, I would choose him." She's like, he's not warm and fuzzy, but he is the best. And I was like, okay, that's all I care about right now. Just don't let me die.
You have three categories we're talking about: uber talented people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Regular, and then mediocre, whatever. We already know people who are unskilled and unlikable would be over here. The middle part have 50% likability and 50% skill. They're adequate. They can get the job done. But when it really matters, when you're doing an important thing, you are not taking adequate. You're not taking someone who could probably do it, but they're not the best. When you want something that's going to affect everybody, you want the best of the best, and you don't give two shits about anything other than. So when you're on an airplane, which category do you want the pilots to be in? Do you want them to be in the substandard? Do you want them to be in the they could probably get the job done? Or do you want them to be the best pilot?
The best of the best.
If you heard that you had a pilot that has 1 million air miles, served in the military, and served 20,000 sorties over their career, and they said, that's your pilot, you'd be like, okay, let's freaking do this. But if you're like, hey guys, my name is Gene, and I hope you enjoy everything. It's my first day, and so we're gonna have a really fun time today. We're going to Newark, and it's kind of busy. And there's gonna be other planes in the area. I've got lots of simulator time, so I've done this on the computer so many times. So I'll talk you through it, make you feel good that this is gonna go just fine.
Oh my God, I have anxiety just thinking of a pilot saying that.
Yes.
I'd be like, no. You had a pilot do one time, like actually did this on my flight, turned on the mic and went, Houston, we have a problem. And I went, and some people chuckled. I was like, not funny. That's not funny. And he was just kidding. And we weren't even near Houston, but I was just like, nope.
Yeah.
I said, I appreciate that you have a personality, but I need to know we're not all going to die.
So that was a long answer to your Elon Musk question. What else you got?
Dennis says, that's why sheiks from the Middle East come to Cleveland for healthcare.
They have loads of money, and we have the best doctors.
Yeah. And my surgery was down south. It wasn't around here, but I've heard good things about Cleveland Clinic. And I heard Donatella Versace was there one time. And so that's good to know.
Yep.
I want the best of the best.
That's it. And the United States of America supports the healthcare for every country that thinks they have universal healthcare. Without us, they'd be effed. We are carrying every country's healthcare system on our backs. Everything from pharmaceutical. Let's just say we went socialized medicine. I don't think people realize just how devastating universal healthcare in the United States would be if there would have to be one thing that happens that would satisfy me a little bit, is if we gave the world notice that we were getting out of the game of doing medicine for profit, that some other country would stand in and do what we're doing right now and be the incubator for all the innovations that we fund as consumers. So if every time somebody, bought a license for a drug or produced a drug or used one of what we developed over here, if they paid a license fee on it, then it would be fair. But it's like, hey, you know what? We're going to use universal health care, but we still need the United States for their expertise because they actually train people who are really good and make the best of this. Why? Because it's for profit. If I'm going to go through the hassle of getting education, I'm going to make sure that I make a good bit of money by doing it. And in universal health care, you're going to make $70,000. So we get sort of the mediocre, could get the job done, but they're not the best of the best. So when you go to these other countries, Canada, for instance, they got 12-month waiting times to go get some kind of stuff going on. It's not all of them, but for the most part, you have scarcity of supply, right?
Yeah.
And so you have to wait in line for things that are not emergency services. So you got to wait a little while. And if you don't wait, then you got to come to the United States outside the system and get the service done in the United States. What if there were no United States? There wasn't a place you can go to get the non-electives. Well, Canada depends on it, or else they would have far more deaths than they do right now if there were no United States to freaking piggyback off of. So if everybody goes universal healthcare, nobody can actually do universal healthcare.
Yeah. And I've more and more really sort of been getting on board with the idea you talked about treating all doctors' offices like a regular business, where rather than having to have insurance and having to pay whether you use it or not, and having to go where the insurance company tells you you have to go, like, just as though I would choose what grocery store, choose what auto mechanic, or choose whatever. Like, I want to call you up. Hey, what are your rates? What do you do? How good are you? I don't know. Let me try somebody else, and kind of shop like it's a business. I think that's a great idea.
Absolutely. And I have doctors that we service, and they have totally pulled their services from the insurance market, and they only cater to cash payers. They don't even accept any insurance. They don't have a billing department. You walk up to a menu and they take things that they can do there, and they take all of those people out of the healthcare system, and they service them directly.
Is there any law against any medical professional doing that?
You don't have to. It's a good, reliable source of customers that come through your door, because you basically if everybody's conditioned that the reason when they go to a doctor, they use their insurance, and then you don't even do insurance, well, people will show up there and just like, what do you mean you don't take insurance? I didn't even think that was a real thing.
Yeah. Like I've seen chiropractors do that, but I've never, I mean, I guess sometimes, yeah, you could go to urgent cares and stuff and pay out of pocket, but it's almost like you're required to give them the insurance. And in fact, sometimes I've seen doctors' offices say, do you have insurance? Yes, but I just want to pay out of pocket. Nope, you're not allowed if you have insurance.
Right. That's geared because that is their revenue source, is fielding insurance, and they're crafting that.
Yeah.
Right?
I saw a guy, he made a video and he said he went to go to the doctors and they had two different prices. If you are a cash paying person who does not have insurance, you get a discount and it's a cheaper visit. And they said, but do you have insurance? He did. Then we have to use your insurance and your payment is this. And it was more. And he's like, wait a minute. But if I tell you, no, I don't have it, I get a cheaper rate.
Yes.
Just give me the cheaper rate. No. You have insurance. We have to use your insurance.
Right.
And it's this payment. He's like, this is the biggest scam ever.
Yeah.
Like it's actually costing me more money to have this thing that I'm told I have to have. And had I not had it, I would be spending less money right now.
So talk to, if you know anybody who's in the medical billing, it is such a scam.
Yeah.
And so, for instance, like, so the insurance providers have like a book of what they're willing to pay for certain procedures, right? And some of them are not even possible to make money on them because they pay so low on certain procedures. But in order to accept insurance, you have to accept those patients, even if they're going to lose you money by doing that procedure. So then it puts pressure on physicians to be able to make up the difference by doing things like selling pharmaceuticals and selling testing. So let's just say your margin is
giving someone 85 x-rays because this person couldn't get
because they got to make up the difference. If you come in for something and I know I'm collecting $30 from an insurance, because basically what they do is they have the maximum amount that the insurance company will pay for a procedure, and they will try to get the maximum amount, right?
Yeah.
So if it's a $700 thing, that would go for, and the insurance company will pay $300 on it, they'll take the hit and bring the person through. And then just like at a retail shop, they'll look at their other things they can sell you on impulse, like blood tests and x-rays, that can loosely be justified. If they see you have something, right, and they're like, oh, I can do an x-ray and I can make $70 on an x-ray because I bought the machine and it's down in my basement. I could bill the insurance company for something I gave you and make a 70% margin up, make up the loss from having you being sent here for a procedure I lost my ass on, and give you pharmaceuticals at the same time. I'll give you some prednisone. It's not going to do anything, not going to really hurt you, but I'm going to be able to make some money on that. Now you have a whole scam of they're trying to sell you more products when you're there.
Yeah. And I've witnessed it firsthand. I've worked in a medical office, and all of us, me and my coworkers, could tell you by the insurance company the patient presented with, we don't know why they're here. We don't know what their issue is. We see their insurance and we're like, you better go get the x-ray machine ready. You better start getting therapy ready to go. Like, this person's going to get x-rays. They're going to get therapy. They're going to get this. They're going to be back in a week. And we were right on the money. We knew exactly based on if they were cash, if they had insurance, what the insurance was, how quickly they'd be in and out of here and what they're getting.
Yeah.
And we were always right.
Because if the priority is offsetting losses by what insurance companies are willing to pay, then your doctor, when you come in, they're not thinking balance sheet. You're on an hourly rate, and I'm going to give you my most expertise and the time that you have scheduled for here. You know that they're going to be a little less biased. Now, not to say that, cash payers aren't going to try to sell you pharmaceuticals and tests as well if they can, but remember, a patient won't object to a test if they're not paying for it anyway. But if they're have to then add $50 to the appointment because you go get an x-ray, they might say like, well, maybe we don't need that this time. I'm passing.
Oh, and let's talk about if the patient was in a car accident and an attorney is involved. Mm-hmm. Oh, you're get this, and you're getting this, and you're getting this, and you're getting this, and you're getting therapy 3 times a week.
Yep.
And you're getting all kinds of
Money
stuff.
grab,
and it's like, here we go.
Sure. And you can make the argument that not all of this is nefarious. It's a business trying to stay in business and fighting against odds. And you don't see doctors running around really suffering much on the financial side.
And in defense of some doctors, I do believe some of them would say this care was necessary. The patient did need this. Unfortunately, I cannot give this to everyone because of the lack of payment. They need it. They needed this, but they were able to pay and they weren't. My hands were tied.
Yep.
You know, they may not be saying, cha-ching, I'm going to get a bunch of money by doing a bunch of unnecessary things to this patient. It could really be, this is necessary, I just can't give it to everyone kind of thing, which maybe some.
So I was I was working with a doctor who was setting up a new practice, and I might get some of these figures wrong, but they're going to be close. So this guy had about $800,000 in college loans. All right. So starting out of the game, he's got the credentials, need to get started. He's got $800,000 worth of debt. Okay. That's pretty big.
Dang.
Then he has to get the building and outfit it with all the machinery. So he had another $2.5 million in machinery that needed to go in his practice. And then he had a yearly $1 million malpractice insurance policy. It cost him $1 million that he had to pay to an insurance company unless somebody got injured while doing it. So right out of the gate, you're saying this guy needed about $5 million to even start.
Jeez.
All right. So the first 10 years, he's just paying back the nut on what got him to that day. He has to practice 20 years before he can start going to the golf course and enjoying the money that's coming in.
Yeah.
Right? So it is not something, if the one way that you dissuade people from getting the credentials to be a doctor is make it so that nobody wants to put themselves through that ever in a million years.
I heard a realtor once told me, don't expect to make any money in the first 5 years, because anything you actually sell is just paying all of the licensing fees and courses and everything to get you there.
Right.
How about, like, you know, you always hear about any business, really, any new business you open. If you last 5 years, that is a milestone that you are still in business for 5 years.
Yep.
Would you say most of them are still sort of just getting their bearings in 5 years?
It's kind of laying down an excuse for them in a good way, that if they just to practice, they're already on the hook. So really, if they try to sell you some extra stuff while you're there to make some money to keep themselves in a business, you have an understanding of why they are. You know, it's sad from the consumer standpoint that you get sold drugs that you didn't need and offered tests that you also don't need. You just want a 1-for-1. I go in, someone lends their, you know, I'm leasing their expertise, and they're not trying to upsell me on, you know, added features or whatever.
Yeah. Jerry says, biggest scam is facility fees for office visits. Facility fees. What the heck? That is a scam. What's a facility fee? Or you ever see like a Band-Aid is like $20 or something on a hospital bill, and it's like
$120 Tylenol.
Yeah. And Dennis says, I bet you ate good though, working at the doctor's office. What, like drug reps?
Drug reps coming to take care of you, don't
every
they?
so often we did. There was like one imaging place in town wanted us to use them for imaging, and she would bring us treats. Or there was like, I don't know, some drug rep had some pain blocker product, something, and you know, just let us give you a presentation and we'll buy lunch for your whole office. I'd be like, do it. Doctor's like, we don't need that. I don't care. They don't care. They have to present it anyways. Just let us have lunch. I was into it.
Yep.
You're
the black male don't mind. The black male do mind.
The black male.
The beneficiaries of blackmail, right? They don't mind. They get the thing. But the black male, the ones being deprived, they absolutely mind.
Who's deprived in that situation? Sales rep is required to do so many pitches a week. We'll give you a pitch. You give us free lunch for your time.
Okay. Well, how about the guy that sells a superior product that didn't give you lunch? Does he get chosen, or do you pick the guy that gave you lunch?
Hey, give us a pitch. They're not reaching out to us.
And would you say like, oh, you didn't bring lunch? Yeah, we can run taking pitches today.
I wouldn't say that. I'll say I'll listen to you, but I'm going to like you better if you gave me something.
Exactly right. Thank you for participating in the corrupt world of business.
you brought us treats. All right, I'll put in a good
Oh,
word
they know
for you.
they know it's effective. So
I'll put in a good word with the dog.
take you out fishing
ya.
on my yacht, take you golfing, wine and dine you, and then you choose me. Who would have thought? Now, if that strategy was used against you, you would not like that strategy because you were like, that's not even fair.
Have you ever been in that position where a rep wants to like take you out?
All the time.
Do you go?
No, not a single time.
No?
Nope.
What if it's a product you're actually interested in? You want to hear more?
No.
You're going to say, you can sit here and tell me I don't need to go.
No, in fact, and sometimes I get cornered into it where I agree to on one conditions and it ends up being a freaking pitch and I bail. Like I do not appreciate
that's
those at
totally
all.
Different. I've had that where somebody says, hey, I just need you this so that I can do this. And you help them. And then you realize it's actually a pitch to you. You're not there to help them. You're there to be the pitch to. And then I'm like, don't ever.
Yeah, there's a lot of long cons that go on, and those are the harder ones. And so I do a lot of my philanthropy work. I do things that don't make any sense whatsoever to do. And so sometimes when I'm meeting with someone, they're trying to figure out, we met with 10 people who all had their hands out wondering what's in it for them. And I haven't even made an ask yet. And so they're trying to figure out like, what's my angle on them? And it's a little, it's a little disappointing that somebody can't just have a nice gesture without being questioned that you want something out of it. It's because there's drug reps and you want lunch. You're like, hey, I'll be listening to you if you give me some chicken.
I will. Sometimes I will reach out to our customers just to reach out, just to check in. How's it going? Anything you need? Thanks for your business. And most of them are fine when I first call, but there are several where as soon as I say where I'm calling from, they're like, what? And I'm like, what, do you need money? Is something wrong? And I'm just like, I'm just simply checking in. How's everything going? Blah, blah. And they're like, oh, okay, we're good. But I used to hate that. Like, and especially if I worked in sales and they knew I was a sales rep, I hated being that position that as soon as you reach out to someone and they're just like, what is your angle? And I have to directly state, I am not selling you anything. This has nothing to do with money. I am simply saying hello. And they're like, okay. But it's like, that is so uncommon, I guess, that we're always just like, what do you want?
Well, it's because the marketplace is pervasive with the upsell. It's everywhere. You go get your oil change and don't put money down, whether or not you're going to pull in, get your oil change, you're going to pay for it, and you're going to be able to leave. Versus saying, while we were under there, we noticed that you need a higgly bop. And you will bet you that every single time you're going to get upsold on something.
And sometimes those conversations do turn into business for us if through conversation something comes up.
But you don't exploit it.
Yeah.
Let it be on their terms. If I say, hey, you know what? While you're here, give me my higgly bop, then it's a different story.
Yeah. Like, oh, I'm glad you called. I actually do need blah, blah, blah. Great. But I didn't call to like pull that out of you.
Right.
Okay.
So let me tell you about this procedure and tell me that, you're not in a position to answer this, but I am.
Okay.
So the average height of men is 5'9".
Really?
5'9", yeah.
That's me. I'm 5'9".
Okay. And so there was this guy who has started a trend of having leg extensions installed, right?
Like surgically?
Surgically installed. That this guy was 5'6", and he said, all I want is to be average height. I want to be 5'9". So 3-inch improvement in his stature.
And it's all leg.
Oh, hold on. So the cost was about $75,000. And what they did was they made measurements to see how the muscles and tendons, what's the maximum length that they could tolerate or support and stretch to be able to support the increase in height without then extending tendons and muscles and whatever. And so 3 inches is what they came up with, which is an adequate height. And he paid all of that money to go up 3 inches. Now, do you think it's a worthwhile pursuit?
No, not really.
Okay. Why?
First of all, there's a lot more to the body that will make you a certain height than just adding to your leg. Like, are you going to look funny, number one, if you just all of a sudden get longer legs, but everything else is still the size of a 5'6" man? You know what I mean? Like, there is still, I'm afraid, number one, you're going to look disproportionate, I guess.
Okay.
Two, I don't love the idea of spending all this money and going through surgery and pain and changing your body because of an insecurity. It's just kind of sad to me that somebody would go through those lengths.
Well, women are responsible for that.
Well, that was going to be my other point, is if he's doing this because he believes that a woman will only accept him if he is 3 inches taller, that's not a woman you want to have.
Listen, 80% of the men are excluded from being chosen by women because of the standards they set on artificial, very aesthetic issues. 20% of the men meet those standards. So 80% don't have anybody. They're living lonely, solitary lives. So if you're like, all right, this is the math of the game. In order to participate, I've got to make changes so that I do qualify for the 20% that women will pay attention to.
Do you think it's okay that women are changing their faces and bodies to appeal? Like,
they're playing the game. Me?
Yeah, you think men are not responding?
I'm not part of that pool. It doesn't affect me. If the ultimate deal is to pair up with a person of opposite sex with you, to start families with and whatever, and you're in the 80% that are not going to get a look just because societally we've changed the standards where literally 80% of the women are vying for 20% of the men. 80%. And 20% are good and they're willing to overlook the aesthetics and the things that don't, materially match up. But 80% are. So as long as the numbers 80% are going after the 20%, there's not mathematical parity there.
And I am a little hypocritical with this, I'll admit, because when I first met my husband is 5'5" and I am 5'9". And my first reaction was, get the heck out of here. Look at you and look at me. We're going to look silly. I started, like, anytime we hung out, I would slouch real low. I would try to, not look like an Amazon next to him. And it truly was that I got to know him. We bonded. And then the height difference went out the window. I learned to not care anymore. But the first reaction was, I'd prefer someone tall.
Okay, so let's just say at the time period where you were selecting a mate, it wasn't the majority of meeting people in person and getting to know them. It's going on an app that you click one checkbox and it just excludes anybody that's below that. So all you're choosing from is the people that do hit your standards. So your pool is hundreds of thousands of people, of which the ones that are below those boxes are not in that pool. So you can only select. Your husband would not have been in that pool. So you would have selected someone who did match those things and you wouldn't know any different, right? Mm-hmm. You wouldn't feel bad that there are people who weren't on there unless you can compare it to today where, holy shit, like that's a really bad idea to just exclude people on, those values of height or weight or whatever. I would never got to know my husband.
Because it would be interesting if you met online, not in person, you bonded, you formed a connection, you really had feelings, and then you saw him in person. You were like, oh God, you're like 3 inches shorter than I thought.
Exactly.
Do you suddenly feel differently about them?
Well, biologically, right? You don't want a man that is shorter than you. You don't. Biologically, you want somebody who can protect you, can provide for you, and shorter stature than you adds more negative than it does positive.
I do wonder sometimes. So my husband, when I met him, was very much this sort of badass, like very strong built army guy, tough. Even though I am physically bigger than him, he could lift me no problem. Like, I never felt that I could not have protection from him. I wonder if he were not that, if he were everything he is personality, but was sort of the average Joe with a job that didn't make him built and tough and whatever, like, would I have gotten over the height thing so different? Like, would my biological urge has been like, I don't see you as a protector, provider on a biology standpoint.
My point is, though, if a majority of the people were meeting someone with the checkbox that is in play, you go to that app, are you selecting a height below you ever in a million years? Because
probably not.
No. So he would have been, my point is that he would have been excluded from that. So even if he could have won you over with his other prowesses, since that was an option to exclude, and women are selecting 6 foot or under, are not part of the pool they are choosing from.
Yeah. I mean, I always wanted a guy that was taller and a little older. And my husband is shorter and 4 months younger than me. Yeah. And had I had a little thing, I would have.
All right. So slippery slopist, right? Let's both get on the math behind this. If a majority of the people are selecting their mate from large pools of people where they can be extremely picky, we're not going to go out in public and, let people overcome the things that aren't at our standards. And there's enough people inside the group that we select to satisfy the out group's desires and whatever. What's going to happen 10 years from now?
People are going to be making a lot of changes.
Like what? What's going to happen? Let's go right down that slope. Like, what's the first couple things that happen when you have 80% of the men? 80% of the men are not even given a look at all.
They're probably going to start trying to physically change themselves.
You think so?
Women are doing. I think so.
Okay.
Well, I think they already do a little bit.
I don't necessarily think that men men could be satisfied in the impulsive urge departments more than women, right? There's not as many emotional ties that you can't easily substitute with something else.
Yeah, if we're talking about physical changes, I think men do still very much think about their physical and what would need change.
But when that's not the priority, you stop thinking about that. Right? Men are about to buy out to the sort of like the structure of how this is supposed to work. And once they buy out, it's doomsday for women.
You think men will say, I'm out. I don't care what your preference is. I'm me, and take it or leave it, and I'll be fine.
They won't pursue relationships, which is exactly what's happening. They won't want to start
they'll get
families.
Robots.
They'll have their sexual urges met in other ways, just inconvenient as could be as well, and they'll go off and do what men do and be satisfied in the ways that they need to be satisfied. The pool will shrink significantly, and the power dynamic will shift with it. I'm telling you, we're slippery sloping. So you can have your own theory, but it can't be you just disagree with mine. What do you think is likely to happen? Men are going to like primp to attract women?
I think they already do. And now you're talking about someone who will surgically do it. So that's not going the opposite direction.
Okay, let's exclude the minority and just the majority. What do you think the majority will do?
Why do you think that's the minority? How do you know that's not the majority?
You think that men want relationships so badly with all of the competing urge satisfiers that exist, that they will go through the knife and get extensions for the hope that they're going to be chosen through an app? I think not.
I don't know if they'll all be that drastic.
We're talking majority minority.
They're going to work out. I think they're going to choose clothing items.
But the thing that women are choosing aren't something that's changeable without leg extensions.
Maybe.
Plead your case. You have this option.
So you think all women then need to have
Don't say all. Don't say all.
The majority of women need to have a tall, like a lot of times men will do like toupees or hair transplants. So we have to have thick heads of hair on a tall man with good muscle tone.
All right. I want you to have 1,000 women use the app. Right. Mm-hmm. And I want to show you that it's a 75% split. What they choose to checkbox is what they are choosing, what is in their pool and what's outside of their pool. 75% of the women are going to technologically exclude anyone as being an option for any of that, which means if it's a reversal on the men's side, you have a pool of people who are not being selected.
I think the men have an advantage with women because to me, I think the men will weigh more heavily on looks and appearance. Women put more heavily on what you bring, what you can evoke emotionally, how you make us feel. And I saw a really great example of this recently. I got a reel by a friend on Instagram and I instantly sent it to all of my girlfriends. And we read the comments and all these women were just drooling over this video. Everyone's like, oh my God, my ovaries. I don't even know this person. I want him. All this. All it was is a video of this car. Somebody said it was a setup maneuver, but the car narrated it as police officers, some perp they were chasing, car and the police car finally rammed together head on head, and a police officer who you cannot see up close and you don't know what he looks like gets out, climbs out of the window, jumps feet first straight into the windshield of the perp's car, busting through to arrest him. And these women were going insane.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone's like, why is that the hottest thing I have ever seen? And it was like, I don't even know this man and I want him so bad because of the toughness, the sexiness of what he did, the danger involved. I think men can appeal to women using things that are not physical changes. And it's very hard for a woman to appeal to a man if they are not physically what he wants.
On the app, how do you specify I'm a badass? That's what's working against you is women and technology are not, that's not going to help you in your pursuit of how you feel about someone. So without being able to see or get a sense for someone, you're going to check boxes that are measurables. And what are you going to select? So I'm saying you're being deprived of your first sense that's going to help you select people based on what you want. And you're going to be left with measurements and you're going to choose the same thing. When you're in that corral, you are going to choose the thing that's opposite of what you just said there.
You might choose it temporarily. Like you're like, oh, I'll have a date with you. You look good. And then it goes nowhere.
So keep going. Keep going. So you use the app, you select the head of hair, a certain height, certain dynamics. You get a list of 1,000 people to choose from. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so you go on a date with one person that came up after you filtered out the people that didn't meet those standards. You're like 1,000, that's enough. I spent a lifetime and I wouldn't be able to date all 1,000 of the ones that came up on this search. I can do this next week and there'll be new ones on this list. Right. So when would you decide to not check that one if what shows up is hitting your standard? There's not going to be a day where you're like, you know what? I'm going to try all the things I don't like.
It's hitting your first standards and ignoring all the others.
Exactly. That's what technology is doing. And that's why 80% of the men are being excluded.
Michael says 8-10 men will lower their standards before a woman will to try to find a mate because they are not selected by someone they actually are attracted to.
That is how what we're dealing with.
Times I went out with a man that I was not attracted to.
In a different era when you didn't think about it.
No, because I didn't find him on an app.
If you had 10 people to choose from, right? And you were that lived in your community and you met all of those person met all the people in person versus infinite amount of choices, can be as picky as you want to be.
I don't know if it's infinite.
It's infinite.
Then why do all these single people I know have such a hard time finding people online if it's infinite choices? It's not infinite choices. It's infinite choices. Have you been on a dating app lately?
No, I don't go on dating
So
apps.
How do you know it's
mathematically
infinite choices?
Tell me why you don't think it's infinite.
Because I know women having an extremely difficult time finding people and they're using apps. So it must not be infinite.
But do they go on the dates?
Probably sometimes.
Okay, so you'd have to prove to me that there's one day you go to pick your next date trying to find your match and it says 0 results, right?
What?
You open a dating app and you're like, I just went on this date, it didn't go well. So I'm going to get my next one. And so I put my standards back in there and it comes up with 0 results, gone through all of them. The phone book's ended.
Probably.
Never.
Yes.
No, let's test it. Let's do the dating app challenge.
We do need to do this.
And figure out how many results, get your minimum standards to go out on someone, pick all of the stereotypical ones that I threw out there. And let's pretend that you go on a date, run it the next day, see how many more come up. And I bet you never get to 0.
I remember I had a coworker one time, real young, early 20s, single girl. And we were talking about dating apps. And I'm like, well, pull it up. Let's see. Let's see. Maybe you're being too picky. And she would sit there and look through and she'd be like, no, 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 no. There's no one. It's not infinite. It felt very much like these women are like, I don't like any of this.
Then that means that ones were coming up. She was just saying no to those ones.
Yes, because it's not infinite that meets your standards.
What I mean by standards is when you select your standards, it gets results. So you say,
I don't
6
think you
foot,
always
employed, 45 years old, blah, 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 search. There's always a person that comes up as that result.
Think
it doesn't
always.
ever say 0.
I
we got to test
disagree.
it. We got to test it.
We do have to test this.
I say it's infinite. You say it's not.
I bet you a woman could get on an app and be like, here's what I want in a man. I want this. I want this. I want this. Search. And then she's like,
0. Doesn't happen. Not even a thing.
Or they live several states
away.
You
can't add you can't add new standards. It's this is what I like from a person. The more, obviously, the more criteria you get, the less people that come up as a result. But I'm saying the stereotypical, what women are looking for. You just take the top 10 priorities of what women choose on dating apps, choose those 10 things, and that you would have an infinite amount of
And you
results.
think if a man does the same thing, he's not going to find it.
What do you mean?
Like if a man takes it and says, here's my criteria, search, he's going to find less than what a woman would find.
No, he's going to find an infinite amount. But I'm saying that the 20% that okay, so you have 100 people, 20% of them are dateable, right? So 20 people will get a yes on that. So there's 20 of them in that pool. 80% will get an automatic no. So you will find yourself saying no, or women will find herself saying no to more than she says yes to, but it doesn't mean there will be a lack of ones that get returned.
I'm confused.
Okay.
What is it you think will happen? Women have the advantage. They can turn down men more easily than men can turn down women because
no, I'm saying that there will be people excluded that exist that will never, no matter what, be in the pool of even dateable, choosable.
They'll never meet the standards.
They're never going to get in there. They're going to, at one point, say, I can go on a dating app and I will have 0% success because I'm outside one of the primary categories that women will select. I'll be automatically excluded from that group.
We need to make a fake account and work this out.
Right.
That would be interesting.
I'm going to be right. I mean, it's probably worth the test, but I'm right, you're wrong.
Well, I will ask my single girlfriends and they might disagree.
You have to be very specific about what they would disagree with. Whether or not it's worked out, I don't give two shits about whether it works out. I'm saying if you take the stereotypical standards that you would put as your primary, what's important. So if we had an interview and I said, hey, when you're looking for your guy, how tall is he? What does he weigh? What kind of job does he have? And they would say something like, needs to make over $100,000, needs to be 6 foot tall, needs to be, in his 30s. The stereotypical bullet points. Hit submit on those bullet points and how many standard men show up. And that's what I'm interested in.
And if a man does the exact same thing, how many women show up?
I'm not arguing the man side at all. What?
Where's the advantage that women have? You think they have more choices?
No, they are excluding a bulk of dateable men where they don't hit the standard.
But the men are doing the same thing.
Well, it doesn't matter. That's not what we're talking about.
Then what are we talking about?
Men's standards are lower, so they will include a lot of people in their height requirements and where their profession is.
You think we'll be pickier?
Yes, by a ratio of 2 to 8, right? 20%.
You think we'll be like, gotta be 6 feet, gotta have this salary, this eye color, and they're gonna be like, must be female.
But no, 20, because you automatically exclude 80% of the people, and you have an infinite amount of choices within that 20%, women will never have to deviate and roll back some of their standards, where men have less standards to choose from, and they also have infinite, but they're not doing the ultimate choosing. Women are still in control of who gets dated.
Michael said, with what you just said about never being met is why some guys lower their standards to be selected.
Yes.
I feel like both men and women lower their standards at times. I don't think it's always infinite choices for women.
It is.
It's not.
It is infinite choices for women.
It's not.
Yes.
I'm going to make a fake dating profile.
Okay.
And I'm going to see. And we could even set the criteria together. We'll see what comes up.
Okay.
And you're going to be like, oh, you're right. There ain't shit here for you. And I'll be like, thank you.
If you have anybody to swipe on, then I'm right.
But what if the man has people to swipe on?
Doesn't matter.
Why doesn't that matter?
Because men don't have the choice. It's the women who say yes, no. Men will probably pretty much.
Men do have the choice.
They do not. They'll say they'll say yes when being asked because their standards are much lower than women. That's why you don't even consider it, because if given the power dynamic where they set the yes, no, then we'd be fine, because there would be many.
It's what the end result is. Are their standards less lower, as in I will choose any woman, have sex with her and be done? Maybe. Whereas the woman's game is, where's a lifelong partner and mate? That's two totally different things. So if the woman's standards are higher and the woman is making choices and a man's like, low standards, I don't care, is it because they're looking at two totally different things to do with the match that they were given? This guy's like, doesn't have to go anywhere. It's a one night stand. I'll get drunk. I don't care. Endless opportunities. Whereas the woman's like, it's not what I want. I want a person for life. Then it is
those aren't
totally
even in the
different
measurements, because anybody who wants a partner for life is not trolling on a dating app to be able to find it. They'll say that's the worst way to do it. I'm going to go to church. I'm going to meet him in person, because there's way more things to consider than how tall
you would
they are.
think, but I've heard the opposite. I've heard
those
people
are
say,
within,
I can't meet people.
I'm saying the convenient thing is to do it on a dating app, and a majority of the people are picking it that way. And they might feel terrible that they're never finding their perfect person by using filters on a dating app to find their perfect one. But again, skewed math. Right. I'll tell you, the two things that will be true on the other side of this experiment is that 80% of the men are excluded, and there's an infinite amount of choices within the remaining 20% for women.
Infinite choices of people that hold everything you are looking for.
By the check boxes that you hit. So here, let me play it out, because here's the slippery slope. So I'm, let's just say I make $500,000 a year. I'm 6 foot tall, handsome, good looking, and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I also know that the top 20% of women are searching for me. Right. So you know what I'm going to do?
My first reaction when you describe that is, I'm a woman and I find that, I'm instantly skeptical. He's got to be a douchebag. He's a womanizer. He's something.
Well, that's what's going to happen, because I have so much demand coming in for me, because I hit all the standards. When those 80% over there, they won't even get looked at. I'm not going to settle down with one when I can have one a day.
Still single?
One a day. So they are buying, their standards have bought them into a disappointment pile. That guy knows that he can exist in that strata for the rest of his life and never has to commit to anybody.
Which is why he has infinite choices, not the woman.
When I say infinite, I mean you will never get to the bottom of that basket if you dated once a week with the available people. You can date through that pool and meet that douchebag and date to the next one and date to the next. There will always be another one getting added to your queue. You cannot date them fast enough to get to zero, is what I'm saying.
And you think that's easier for a woman than a man?
What do you mean easier?
A woman would fit that. I'll never get to zero.
Yeah.
I'll keep going.
Well, if you were in a community of 10 people,
not.
right, and you dated all 10, and you would have to move to another community to get exposure to 10 more people. Where when you're doing a dating app, you can say, in my city, then in my town, and in my state, and in my region, and keep moving out, and more people will start getting included, and you can't date all of them. You will run out of time before you run out of people willing to go on that date with you. That's what infinite is. You will never get through to 0.
And you think that only applies to the women, not the men?
No, we're not talking about that.
We were talking about
We're
that.
not talking about that. Men don't have any of those problems, but they are not the one choosing at all. It is not up to them. So two groups of men, right? You have the men who know they're in that strata and they will play the dating game because they get everything they want out of it and it's endless demand for what they have to offer. And then you have the other people who are finding no matches. It doesn't even apply because they're excluded, and they're going to find everything, other things to do. So I'm talking about the people who are chosen are going to have a really good time, and they're going to work that system and be terrible partners. And that people who would be great matches are never going to get discovered, so they're going to find something else to do other than starting families.
Men and women. Men and women. Both sexes are going to experience that.
A portion of women and a portion of men.
And you think it's a larger portion of women?
Yes, you can take an ugly woman and find out what her standards are, and it's going to be 6 foot tall, over 100. I've watched the interviews.
And she's going to be able to match. She's going to be able to have infinite
amount of matches in that.
She's like, I'm ugly. I found a 10 out of 10 man, and we're going to match.
That's who she's going to attempt to match with.
Attempt. But won't.
But it doesn't matter. That would be the standards that she selects. And so she too will be excluding the people that would say yes to her in the pursuit of $500,000, 6 foot tall, and all of those aesthetics.
The man will do the same thing.
I'm not talking about it though. Remember, they're the.
This is like who's on first.
Yes, they are in the excluded subsect. 80% of the women are going after 20% of the men, which means that 80% of the men who are going after 20% of the women. I'm not talking about the 80-20 match.
I don't. It's the attractiveness of the human being. It's not the sex and who's better at it.
What does that have to do with anything?
I don't understand why you think it's the women who ultimately get to decide, not the man.
So let me ask you this. Is the experience going to be great if your standards that you set out exclude 80% of the potential end products that you receive? Do you think they're going to have a good time?
It's probably a low probability.
Okay, so we'll use restaurants. Let's take people out of the equation. So let's just say you have 10 restaurants in downtown, right? All of them probably have a good experience and good food, right? And you're like, well, I need to limit this down. What do I really want? I want cheap prices. I want premium food, and I want nobody to be in the store so I can have a perfect time. So you check those boxes. And there's 2 and the other 8 are not going to be chosen by you because the 2 things that you have a premium are not as part of that. Yeah. Right. And so you go into these deals. It's not a great experience because mathematically, it's hard to even do that. There's something wrong with those places if they can do premium food and whatever, but you keep shopping within those standards and you keep going to the same 2 restaurants that hit those standards. What do the other 8 restaurants do that are not getting any of the patronage from 80% of the people who buy food? What do? They find something else to do. They cater to a different crowd. They go after the people who are choosing them. So now radar 1 is not even overlapping with radar number 2, right? They're not even in the same because this one's moving away. They're not going to try to come after you. You're not even a choice for them. Why would they talk to you? Why would they market to you? Why would they even care about you?
Keep their decor and their theme,
right?
When you're not there.
They're open for everybody. If they chose them, everybody could come in here. But since you're not, and obviously they then have the choice, like you said, that they can make cheap food at a premium whatever and cater to you, or they could be like, this is fruitless. There's just too much of the demand that's going to too few of the restaurants. I got to survive here. So I'm going to say, here's my priorities. Sexual gratification. And we're not talking about restaurants anymore. Sexual gratification, at least have somebody that I can talk to every once in a while, can kind of share more of an emotional level, and then go do what I was built to do. And so long that I get my 3, I don't need you anymore, right? You're obviously going after the unicorns of the world. You're making me miserable by even trying to play, this game. I'm just gonna go off and be happy over here. Now, later you might say, well, this is a bad choice. Going after the unicorns was a terrible choice. I need to meet people. It might be too late. You might be too banged up by the time that, the good guys that are out there, with pornography and hunting in the woods or whatever, they might not even want you by the time you come around. What?
Who hurt you, Joe? Who hurt you?
You think this is trauma talking?
I was like, how much time do we have? I'm just waiting for BJ to be like, all right, 5 minutes, idiots. We're going in circles with this. Who's on first madness?
They do by men do it more than women. They do, but
men do it more than women.
Yeah, the game, like I said, the slippery slope could be applied, and when evaluated, we're not on a good trajectory for any kind of relationships where men need women and women need men. We're going in two different directions.
We're going to have robots.
We're going to have sex with lots of men.
They can pleasure the men and cuddle the women.
Yep. And then we have machines that we can use for procreation. So if you want a baby, you don't need to have a partner. You can just do it on your own with your little baby making appliance, and everything that used to be part of civilization's requirements, now you can do inauthentically.
I see men going for that way sooner than women.
For sure.
I still think women want that emotion and interaction.
Just hope they don't beat men up so bad by the time that they actually need some of that emotion.
God.
That they're just unwilling.
The men are going to beat the women up more. The men are the ones.
And so women are going to be like, all right, you know what? We were really mean. We excluded you, made you feel terrible about yourself. Would you give me another chance? I promise that I'll be better and I'll respect and appreciate you more. And then the guy's going to be like, no, I've been hanging out with Ani for the last 6 months. Ani's great. She tells me that I'm talk show king.
No, it's going to be a man that's like, I don't need to show you respect or appreciation or cater to your needs in any way.
Either way.
Because I don't want you.
Either way.
I just want sex robots.
Either way, pairings, right, are heading in opposite directions. That's the overall point, and these are all the reasons why.
That's terrible.
We
got to push back. And you know how we push back?
How?
By keeping Cracker Barrel the same.
We're out of here. See you next week.
See ya.
Thank you for listening to this show on Youngstown Studio. This is original Youngstown content. Feel free to share our videos and tell your friends about us. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook. Thank you for your support.